Hey, is that your stereo? Is that your stereo? Cue me. You're rolling? Whether you're going on a short day sail or a long cruise, you may need special equipment, medications, training, and perhaps physicals. We'll explore this and more next. So,
This is Captain's Log with your host, Captain Mark Gray. Welcome aboard.
Marina sailing, experience it, the vacation of a lifetime. Islands to explore, sheltered coves to discover, clear water to enjoy. You say you don't know how to sail? Well, that's okay, because we've been teaching people to sail for over 25 years. In fact, we're California's oldest and largest sailing club with 70 boats and 3 locations to serve you. Come on down, take the challenge. We're Marina Sailing.
please welcome my guest, Dr. Charles Montague. Tell me, sir, could you elaborate on a brief history of your boating experience?
Sure. I started sailing when I was about 17 back in Long Island Sound, racing sloops, star-class sailboats, and then the Navy came along and I was in there for 3 years during World War II, and then there was a hiatus until approximately 20 years ago when I moved to California and they built a marina, and I've been into boating since. I've had 2 sailboats. My present one is an Islander 36, which is a 36-foot long sloop, and I've had that for about 11 years.
That's a nice boat.
Yeah, it is. We've taken it on some just coastal sailing around Southern California and out to the islands. My experience as far as long passages are concerned have been pretty much limited to sails deep into Mexico and other boats, other persons' boats, and that's about the extent of my extended offshore cruising.
What yacht club are you a member of, sir?
I'm a member of the Ventura Yacht Club, which has been here ever since the marina was open, and that was approximately 25 years ago. It was in existence before that time, but they had no clubhouse as such, but we're very proud of the area now, and it has all the amenities of most yacht clubs.
I understand you have a special radio program or a radio check program at the Ventura Yacht Club, am I correct?
You're going to have to ask somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
I was at a meeting one night over there, and they had mentioned it, that they need a new radio.
Oh, they have a radio which they monitor. They monitor their own channel so that boaters can make a direct contact with the yacht club, and also they monitor channel 16, which is, of course, the emergency channel, which is monitored by the Coast Guard and the harbor master.
And how long have you been a member of the yacht club, just out of personal curiosity here?
Probably about 25 years.
That's what I thought. It dates back to the conception of it. I understand that you have a list of medications and perhaps equipment that people should take with them, especially if they're planning a long cruise. Could you elaborate on that, sir?
Yeah, Mark. When you asked me if I would talk to you about what medications might be advisable beyond what you'd usually carry in a first aid kit, and what I, as a doctor, would like to see people have on board, I wrote up a list of things which I thought should be aboard. And another thing is that even if a doctor weren't on board, there are ways to communicate with other vessels so that symptoms or the injury that occurred could be described to a physician, and he could instruct you as to what to do with the medication that you have.
Of course, a lot of people do find themselves in this situation in a powerboat, say. They run their batteries dead trying to start the engine, and now they have no radio. And that's where a handheld backup radio really comes in handy, and you have to check it. Some people have the handheld and neglect to check the batteries and have spares and make sure it's in good operating condition. And on a sailboat, of course, your power is limited to where your batteries drain, and you have no charging system. Unless, of course, like in the background here, we have a solar panel. Some people use that to trickle charge their batteries and keep them up. But I'm sorry, please continue.
No, I'd certainly agree with that.
It is a major problem.
Right. I think getting back to the medical aspect, that most of the things that are going to happen to you in a long passage, which I think is what you were talking about, a long passage at sea, where you could crop up with all sorts of different illnesses that you might think. Most of those things that are going to happen to you at sea are actually injuries. Illnesses, infections, and that sort of thing are certainly going to be relatively rare, because you're separated from the public at large, so that communicable diseases aren't going to occur.
I see.
So if you actually stay on the sailboat, you're going to avoid most infections and most illnesses. So you're really just subject to injury.
And you might not want to let local people in the areas upon your ship.
I think you have to use judgment there. There are certain areas that you're going to go. There are tropical diseases of various sorts, which can be carried by insects. Of course, you can't keep the insects off. But I don't think you really need to limit visitors from localities. I think depends upon where you go, of course. Every area is subject to different infections or local disorders or diseases. And I think that if you were planning on a long trip, certainly everybody on board should see their personal physician. It doesn't have to be a specialist. I think a physician that can go over with them their physical condition, certain isolated circumstances of illness that they themselves might have that they're going to have to monitor, such as diabetes or asthma or certain chronic infections or illnesses that an individual might have, but at least to see their physician for a checkup, and probably also their dentist, because dental problems can be a problem at sea.
So you might want to tell your dentist that I am going on a year's cruise or something, and rather where normally he might see a bad tooth 2 or 3 months down the road that'll bother you, he might let it ride. But if he knows you're going on a long cruise, he'd probably x-ray all of your teeth and take care of any potential problems, as well as give you a prophylaxis, cleaning, the teeth and all that. As far as the physical goes, I would imagine you'd also want to make sure you inform your doctor that you're going on a cruise and what areas you're going to, right? I understand there's special shops.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly if you're planning a trip to the Southwest Pacific, you're going to be exposed to certain conditions that he will be aware of that may be in existence at that time, such as a cholera outbreak in Micronesia, or malaria, which is rampant in some particular areas, and he will want to advise you as to what medications that you want to take with you to avoid getting infected, or if you do and get infected, how to deal with it.
So you might get shots ahead of time, but he might prescribe a particular medication in case you do come down with that certain illness.
Right. Certainly for malarial countries, for example, you'll start taking your anti-malarial medication probably 2 weeks before you arrive at that country, and while you're there, and for 6 weeks after you have left. You'll have to see your physician too for most of the medications that I have on this list, because they're all prescription items. And while I'm thinking about it, don't worry about if you get them now and then you still have them aboard 5 years from now, or if you see that they're outdated, about them being outdated. The vast majority of medications don't go bad or don't turn into poisons. They just lose their effectiveness. The dose may not be the same that's on the bottle. So don't be afraid if you have some antibiotics that say expired July of 87. Certainly you can take them into 88 or 89.
You may have to take 2 because if they lose their potency, is what you're saying?
Probably.
And there's really no
but it
way
wouldn't be
to
that
tell.
much of a loss either.
Yeah, so you don't have to really worry about
so
gauging.
don't throw everything overboard just because it's outdated by 1 day.
Of course, if you can, if it's a month outdated or something, to be on top of it, you might want to resupply that and keep
Sure.
on top of it. You know,
Yeah.
part of your safety check might be to check the expiration dates on everything on board
That's
the
your
boat.
agree with that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We have Beauchamp Motion. That's Boating Fashion and Motion right after this. That's really enjoyable. Yeah. Now, Beauchamp Motion with Donna Russell. Please, Donna, tell us a little bit about Ventura Bikini.
Ventura Bikini is a custom casual shop. We have a lot of brand names. We have the biggest selection in the county, and what we're known for is our custom bathing suits.
That's excellent. Let's get the show on the road.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you. Our first model is Dana Russell. She's wearing a Sierra Pacific outfit with a little tie top in pink with pink shorts. Very casual, very comfortable outfit. Comes in about 3 different colors: white, pink, light blue. Nice fit, and it's a good fit with the elastic in the back. Here you go, Dana. Does this mean anything?
No, it's wireless.
Okay. Our second model. Our second model is Cherie Bouchard. She's wearing a raisin bathing suit in the white Hawaiian. It's a very high-waisted bathing suit, very comfortable for sports. It's got the bustier top. This also comes in quite a few different colors. This has some shorts. It also has long pants, tops, everything to go with. This outfit looks great with a pair of white shorts. Thank you, Cherie. Our next model is Rose Simmons. She's wearing a raisin print. It comes with matching clothes also. She's wearing the roll down bottom with the pineapple. It's got the gray on the waistband. You can have it as high up as you want. It's got a knot top that's very secure. Very nice fit. Thank you, Rose. Our next model is Kevin McKellum. He's wearing club. He's wearing a club sweatshirt and club shorts. They sponsor a lot of the local volleyball. Pair of flow hose. He's a bit of a ham bones. This is good. It has elastic and drawstring at the waist. And the sweatshirts are made very nicely with the wrap design. Thank you very much, Kevin. And now back to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Donna. I really appreciate that. And we're back with our guest, Dr. Charles Montague. And could you continue about the special medications that one might take?
Yeah, the list of things that I'd like to see aboard, I jotted down, and I can give you a list of this
At the end of the show?
At the end of the
Sure, then we can make it
presentation.
available to people that write to our address, which shows on the end of the show.
Now, this would be one reason why you should see your physician before you go out on a long cruise. I think it'd be a good idea to take with you that list of things that you would like to have and ask him if he will write prescriptions for these things, because it would have to be in your name. Some of them would be narcotics, for example. And if you were to go to another country with a vial of narcotics aboard, it could conceivably cause some problems. I know of one doctor who was crossing the border by car from Mexico into the United States, and in his physician's bag he had a vial of morphine, naturally, and customs agent took it away. However, if you have your name on there, given by a pharmacist.
I do understand a lot of people go down to Mexico to buy their prescription drugs because they're about 10 cents on the dollar. I've been told this.
I've heard there are
do
a
you
lot
get the
of
same
drugs.
quality, do you think, and quality control? Because I think you might get what you pay for in some
I don't
cases.
think that I can really comment on that. I just don't know. I've heard that drugs are cheaper in Mexico. I'm sure their liability insurance and overhead is considerably less than it is in this country, but I have no idea.
It'd be interesting sometime that perhaps our Coast Guard guests would know about the quality control of that.
Probably so. Well, anyhow, I'd like to go over this list with you, and I think, as I said before, that One of the things that's most likely to happen would be injury, such as a fracture or a severe sprain, in which there can be intense pain. And the last thing you need is a fractured leg or arm or a bad sprain when you've got seas 20 feet and everybody is pitching and rolling. There's no way to get comfortable. And I think it's very helpful to have some narcotics aboard for that purpose. And I would suggest a vial of morphine, morphine sulfate injectable, or Demerol hydrochloride injectable. And certainly you're going to need the syringes to go with that, and they package syringes that are already sterilized, already have the needles on, which are kept sterile, and they can be kept sterile for a prolonged period of time, certainly sterile enough to use for a year or two aboard.
I know that's what they gave us in the Marine Corps, in the your little medical kit. They would have morphine and all of that for injuries out in the field.
Injuries.
I understand there are problems with it, in that you know, it's highly addictive and things of that sort, but if it's used, you know, properly, and I guess that's where you'd have to ask your doctor for a list of instructions, you know, and then, of course, seek out proper medical care as soon as possible.
Yeah, that would be all labeled, of course, and certainly you're not going to get addicted from one vial, I wouldn't think,
Right.
if
An
used
injury.
appropriately. It's also helpful for heart attacks, too, because heart attacks, you cannot anticipate when a heart attack is going to take place, and there's usually intense pain with that, and the morphine or Demerol may dilate the vessels enough and relieve the anxiety associated with the heart attack so that it would be more tolerable and certainly maybe even life-saving. But I would say that narcotics is one thing that you certainly should have aboard, and then lesser medications like codeine compounds for pain that narcotics aren't required for.
All the way down to aspirin.
Aspirin you should have aboard. Aspirin comes in handy for many things, not only certain blood diseases, but the good old-fashioned headache.
I see we have about 2 minutes left. Is there a way that you could read through the list? That way we'll have it on tape.
One of the things that's a possibility would be a bladder infection, and that can be very distressing, and certainly I'd have something that would relieve the pain associated with that. Nausea and vomiting, of course, most people have their own favorite recipes, but there are...
I put the people to work if they're seasick, and by draining their mental capabilities, it seems to work quite well.
Everybody
versus
has their own
drugs.
treatment for seasickness. I prefer being outside and lying flat,
Right.
or down below and lying secure, but everybody has their own. And certainly an adequate supply of antibiotics, and as I say, I'll give you the list of which ones you should have,
Okay.
because they're all used for different things.
And also, I did want to ask you this. You know, I understand broken arms and what have you are quite common. Broken legs, perhaps they would pick up some splints and things of that sort, and casting material perhaps, and learn how to use that. We have about 1 minute left. Could you tell us places that people could acquire the special training they might need to set an arm, to make a cast, things of that sort? Are there places?
There are. Practically every community has some form of first aid course or CPR. In Ventura County, for example, the college has programs, the local hospital has programs, and they can also give you addresses of where to buy equipment, such as airways and certain medical instruments.
We'll be right back with Sea Tales, true stories of incidences out in the ocean that are meant to save people's lives. Stand upon the shoulders of giants and learn something. We'll be right back after this.
Blending comfort, performance, and value, Catalina Yachts continue a tradition of building outstanding sailboats in every class. Sail the Catalina 30 and experience the successful combination of a modern, efficient hull shape with spacious accommodations that create the perfect balance in a modern racer cruiser. America's largest sailboat manufacturer invites you to call a Catalina yacht dealer in your area today.
Please welcome my Sea Tales guest today, United States Coast Guard Master Chief, Mr. Ken Fish, or Master Chief Ken Fish, right? I understand that you have quite a few sea tales that you could tell with a safety message, but first, could you just tell us very briefly your boating history?
I've been with the Coast Guard 19 years. I've been stationed aboard several Coast Guard cutters, 5 search and rescue stations, as well as a boating safety team.
So that's quite a bit. And what's your sea tale with a safety message for us today?
Just recently, we saved 5 people. As a matter of fact, on Memorial Day, these 3 children, 2 adults, went out for a normal day of recreational boating, probably fishing. Perhaps did not take note of the local weather conditions. They sailed out early in the morning, found themselves by midday in gusting winds up to 50 knots. The problem here is they were in a 22-foot boat. This left them in a unfortunate predicament when they lost power to their vessel and they were unable to get back ashore. They were pretty much at the mercy of the weather conditions, and they were being tossed about pretty severely, the seas reaching a height of about 25 feet. That's pretty enormous for folks that are inexperienced and in a small boat.
I understand they didn't have any power and ran their batteries dead, so they didn't have a radio.
That's correct. They, in trying to restart the engine, we believe that they ran the batteries down, which took the power away from the radio.
How did they get rescued finally?
Well, the fishing boat Mary Lou happened by. They apparently waved. Although he stood by, he was unable due to the sea conditions and the heavy wind to either take them off or take them in tow. He felt it was too dangerous. So he relayed the call to our group office in Long Beach, and in turn the Point crew was directed to respond. It took us about an hour and a half to get there, to get through the heavy weather.
That's a lot of bouncing out there.
That's a lot of bouncing around, you're right. When we got there, fortunately, everybody was in pretty good shape. They were pretty scared. We had no chance at that time, we believed, to pull them off, put them onto our vessel. We felt that would be too dangerous. Our vessel being so much bigger, if we brought them alongside, we would more than likely destroy the little boat.
So you put it in tow?
So what we did do is we put a man in our inflatable boat, put him on board to assist, because we felt that the people on board were in no condition to do any of the work, to attach a tow line, etc. We did eventually get a man on board.
I do see we have about 1 minute left.
Okay.
So
we got the man aboard. We eventually took the vessel in tow. As a result, two of our people were injured in the process. During the night, the boat began to break up. We eventually did have to try to go alongside. We managed to extract all 5 people. One of them had fallen into the water. The cutter had rolled, and we were able to grab him and pull him up. This probably all could have been avoided had they taken the time, gotten some experience before venturing out too far, learning about the weather, learning about the limitations of themselves and their boat.
Some extra meteorology courses and what have you, rather than just watching the boating weather.
That's right, at least the basics, so they understand what is it going to mean to them on the water.
Well, I see we're running out of time. I sure do appreciate your being here, sir, and we're going to have you back. This is Captain's Log saying safety through education. So be safe out there on the water and watch Captain's Log. Thank you.